Okay, welcome everybody. We are here at Living Chassidus, and Baruch Hashem, we are again with one of our life skill series. Our life skill series is our incredible project to help women reach and get to know the skills that at some point in life, whether it's current, whether it's in the upcoming future, whether it's in the further future, at some point in life, we want to prevent and hopefully um, do everything we can so people don't reach a point where they say, "Oh, I wish somebody would have told me." So here we are. We are telling you, we are educating women now for several years, Baruch Hashem, and it's one of our most beloved programs. So Life Skills is this for this season. It's Monday nights. So I just want to give a little heads up about upcoming programs. Be'ezus Hashem, this coming Wednesday is our Yud Shvat for Bringing at 8:15. So note the time difference, 8:15. We usually start at 8 in the Shputz home with Mrs. Musi Wagner, and we hope to see everybody there. Be'ezus Hashem, it'll be really powerful for ringing for Yud Shvat. So be there. Then we have Be'ezus Hashem next week, Monday, in a week from tonight. Tu B'Shvat meal prepping is at Machon Liadus at starting at doors open at 7:45. And it's also, being that it's Tu B'Shvat, we decided to combine a food-related life skill series with celebrating the new year for the trees. Then a big hit that we're very excited for. And after the guidance of our mashpiyim, we were told with full hadracha forward that we should, even though there may be other programs happening that night, we were told that we should Maisiv and Kedusha and keep our Chaf Beishvat Shluchos for Reingen, which is very exciting. So we are hosting that at 7:15 at Machon Liahadis, and we have two incredible shluchos. We have a beautiful lineup that are going to bring for us, so be on the lookout for that. And the week after that, we have Mrs. Hecht from Chitas for Kids. She's going to be continuing our Davening for Women's series, so Davening for Life, and she's going to be discussing women and davening and how the ebbs and flows, the ups and downs of a woman's schedule and a woman's life, and how we can daven and connect to our davening at every stage of our life. So be on the lookout for all these wonderful events. And with that, I will now introduce our amazing speaker. Baruch Hashem, we've had Ilana be a part of our Living Chassidus hosts and be a good friend that has helped us out in different ways and has been an incredible source of friendship for me and for so many Living Chassidus members. Ilana Ybgi is a wife, a mother, and a bonus mother. She's a life coach, doula, artist, and a philanthropist. She sits on the UJA Brooklyn Advisory Council and on JFNA's MOED. I don't know if I said it right, so Ilana, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Leadership board. And tonight's talk, which I'm very excited about, and it was one of the most asked for in our group, was about feeling in control of your life, setting yourself up for success, life coaching, and guidance in our personal lives moving forward. So with that, I'll pass on the mic and the screen to Ilana. Give me 1 second. Here we go. Okay, Ilana, can you?
Okay. Yeah, can everyone hear me? Thank you so much, Michal. Yeah, I think we're good. Okay, so I'm really excited for this because I love Living Chassidus, and I feel that, a lot of you are my peers and friends, and a lot of you hopefully will become peers and friends. So this will be an experience, a sharing, but really sharing from the level of a peer. The introduction, I think, said most of it. You could see that I'm a busy person. I have 24 hours in my day, like all of you, and 7 days in my week. And Baruch Hashem, we all have Shabbos. So I think that a lot of what I want to present is just things that have helped me, tools that help me to really navigate the personal life balance, the balance between being a Jewish woman and working and being a part of it, the community and being active and all those things. It's going to be pretty informal. You can raise your hands. I'm not so tech savvy, so I will say if someone is like raising their hand or something's going on that I need to see, please feel free, Michal, to point that out to me. And then at the end, I have some anonymous questions that I'll take, and also people, if they want to ask questions, is it possible for them to do that the way that it's set up currently, or do we need to do something different to have a Q&A at the end? I guess we could figure that out at the end. Okay, so one thing that
do you want them to submit it?
They can do it however they want. I have the ones.
Do you want them to submit it? Do you want me to?
How do they submit it? Like you'll manage it and then you'll say them at the end if they submit it. Whatever's easiest. I don't know. However it comes, I'll flow with it.
Sure, I'm happy to do it.
Okay. So when I think about being a CEO of your life, I think about our life is ordered in a way that Hashem is the owner. He's the ultimate boss. And we are the CEOs. So that's sort of how I structure my life and how I think about it. And one of the biggest overarching tools aside from that is that I have to be regulated to be able to be a good CEO. So how I do that is unique to me. And I think how all of you will do that will be unique to yourselves. And it sounds like a lot of you are already doing that. Because we're on Zoom, it's a little bit of a different experience. We're in our homes. I'm not going to use music. I would do this in person in a much different way, but I'll ask if you feel comfortable to close your eyes for a second and just allow yourself to come into your seat, to come into your body, to be grounded. Take a few breaths, arrive into the space from wherever you've come from. Put the pause on wherever you're going after this. Allow yourself to really feel relaxed from the top of your head, from the scalp, all of your hair follicles, all the way down your head. The front of your face is relaxed. You can think of your face like melting candle wax that is just allowing your face to be. You're not holding, you don't have to hold anything. The back of your head is totally relaxed. Shoulders are relaxed, your chest is relaxed, your stomach, your seat, your legs are all relaxed. Nothing is being held, your fingertips, your toes. You can even make sure your teeth and your lips are relaxed. Your tongue is totally relaxed. We're in this moment. We're relaxed and we're energized. There are many tools that people use for relaxation and regulating. For me, just going through the different parts of the body is something that really helps. And that's where I want to start. So a lot of people say those who can't teach, and I have a positive reframe on that. And to those who are growing, they have what to share along their journey. So I'm growing along my journey, and I feel that I have what to share with you tonight. The first thing that I want to share with you is about vision and values. And I think that that's something that's really important for a CEO to have. And as you're the CEOs of your life, every organization has a mission statement that's important to them. You can look on any website or, any paraphernalia from an organization. If it's not explicitly stated, which it usually is, and you can just click mission and values, you can usually extrapolate from the materials that they provide. What is their mission? What is their goal? And I encourage you to do that for organizations that you are aligned with, for organizations that you feel are making a positive impact in the world. Like, look at what it is that they are saying that they do and that they strive to do and that they want to do. And then you can think about how to do that for your life. What's important to you? What are you striving to do? What are you meant to do in this world? Sometimes I break it down into 3 things when I'm deciding what to do or where to go. It's, am I the one that's meant to do it? Am I good at it? Do I enjoy it? And then I might go to a mashpia. I might write to the Rebbe. I might sit and meditate on it. But before I even know if I have a question, I want to make sure that it's aligned. I really want to make sure that everything that I do is aligned. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's aligned just because it's something that's kosher or just because it's something that I'm good at or just because it's something that's needed. It really needs to be, for me, those three things in order to even be something to consider. I want to share, so some of you might know this, but I recently helped a friend plan a simcha. And before the simcha, she was planning to go to the IL. And after the simcha, she was planning to go, or before Shabbos, she was planning to go to the IL, and right before the simcha. So twice she was planning to go, Erev Shabbos, Motzei Shabbos. And for those of you who know me, you know that I really love going to the IL. Like in some ways, there's really not a place that I can think of that I'm more energized to go. And I don't get to go so often. So when we were making the plans, I was so excited. I'm going to be able to go to the IL, and it's not just for me, and I'm going to meditate for everyone and daven and go and have a lovely time. And then we're going to have the simcha. Well, many curveballs were thrown my way, Erev Shabbos, and it became very clear that it was going to be very challenging for me to go to the IL. And then it became very clear that it really wasn't the right thing to do. There were so many last minute things. And the most important thing for me was to make sure that she had a beautiful simcha, which was with kavod and honor and happiness. And so I had to make a very difficult call and tell her, I hope that you have an amazing time. I wish you a mazel tov, and I will not be going with you to the aisle. That was challenging in many ways, but also very grounding because I knew what the most important thing was. And it was received also in a beautiful way because she was very happy that I was connected to the most important thing, despite wanting to have me there by her side. And that's, I think, something that I work on to increase my leadership, both of, in my life and my work and in my family, is looking at what truly matters. Thinking and acting like a CEO is really about doing the things that might not be easy or intuitive, but seeing the big picture and holding that vision. So in order to hold that vision, we really have to be clear about what that vision is. I grew up in a showbiz family, and I remember once I was on a set and I heard a producer say that we're on TV, we don't watch TV. And that was to someone who was watching the monitors too closely and getting like really engrossed in the programming instead of focusing on the fact that it was programming that we were creating. The next tool that I find very helpful is goal setting. So vision and mission really gets you to what are you doing? And then the goal setting is the how are you going to do it? I think a lot of people sometimes miss the steps, or the steps can become belabored, or the steps can be too big. With goal setting, it needs to be realistic. The goal itself can be grandiose and amazing and something that you have no idea how Hashem is going to give to you. You just need to take an action. So once you get to the goal setting stage, then that's when you're going to say, okay, so the goal is that I'm going to buy this house. The house is $1 million. I currently make $20,000 a year. I don't have savings. I don't know how that's going to happen. Some of the steps in, getting to that might be going to see houses, understanding what a down payment could be, knowing how long it might take to get that down payment, asking your parents for help. There could be many different steps along the way. You don't have to, all the steps don't have to meet the goal, the mission and the vision. They just have to be getting you closer. And davening is there, saying Tehillim is there. All of your hishtadlus is going to be in the goal setting, but you don't have to know where it's taking you or how like all of those dots will connect. The next thing that I think is really important with goal setting specifically is time management. I think a lot of times it can be difficult to figure out how I'm going to do these things. And with time management, it's also about the flow of how you work, the cycles of the year, the cycles of being a woman, There are many things that can go into it to be realistic and to set goals that you actually can achieve, that you're moving forward, that you're not going to get discouraged. If possible, I want to just allow, oh, I see there's a chat box. Okay. I wanted to pause and allow for questions or thoughts. So I'm going to open the chat box. Oh, it's not opening. Okay. I see that there are 3 things in the chat box, but I can't see how to see it. Sorry, 1 second. Oh, okay. I see it. Oh, okay. Thank you for the comments. If there are any questions that anyone has now about anything that I said so far, please ask, because I don't want to go forward if everyone's not with me.
Would you like me to allow people to unmute themselves?
Sure.
Yeah? Okay, so just a heads up. If you unmute yourself, we will be able to hear you in the recording, but we will not see you. We'll only see Ilana's image. So I'm just going to fix the setting for that, and then people can unmute themselves.
Thank you,
okay, everyone should be able to unmute themselves if you'd like to submit a question. I guess I'll share something if that's okay. I was going to share that I love your concept of once you have a goal, it's just a matter of thinking creatively, what are some of the steps I can do towards it? And I think sometimes we like set ourselves up in a certain way, like, oh, this is the only way to get there. And sometimes just thinking creatively, what are some different ways? And sometimes it could be this, sometimes it could be that. And just at all points in time, do something. It doesn't have to be the thing, but something towards your goal. So I really love that. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome. Yeah, Hashem is the one who's going to bring it to us. So we're just taking an action. I really feel that very strongly. It's something that I'm working on for myself now, that taking an action and any action is more important than, you know, is it going to be the perfect action? Is it going to be, it'll take you in a direction. It'll reveal to you if it's right or if it's not. If you decide the action is going to be that I'm going to go look at houses and you realize that that's upsetting you or that it's not setting you in the right direction, it's not opening up any more avenues, Hashem's not giving you any more wisdom through that, then you can take a different action. You know, and it doesn't have to be something that's so invested until you get to higher and higher steps. You know, like in the hiring process, many people say hire slowly, and you know that you get rid of people as you need to. So you don't want to take on too much commitment before you know that you're in for something. If you want to be a nurse, you don't necessarily have to sign up for nursing school to get to that step. It might be just that you like watch a video on a nurse, talk to a nurse, take a nurse out to coffee and see what the job really is. Go to the hospital, see if you can volunteer there, just like small steps. Okay. Another thing with time management, I think I'll go into a few things with time management because I think this will touch on even some of the questions that came from the survey, is that, oh, there's something in the chat box. Oh, can you talk about, yes, okay, I'm gonna talk about time management. Okay, so one of the things, I did a time management workshop years ago for managers of small nonprofits. And one of the things that I really was into then, and I'm still into now, even though it's become much, much harder to do, is managing your day. You are in control of your day. An email is not a text message, although now I think the immediacy has gotten stronger. But there are different times of your day when I would say it's important to be more available to phone calls and emails and incoming input and things like that. And then there are times in your day when you're going to want to do more, if it's work, deep work, if it's with your family, more you know, personalized time with them where you're really present, you know, and that could be, in our family, we do it for meal times. So no matter how much I'm working, I try and carve out at least 2 meals a day with my kids and often 3 meals a day with them. And that's my time. Like that's the time that I'm really, really present. I put my phone away and I try and give them the energy that they need. And then there are times when I might be with them, but I'm not so present. And that's calculated and that's conscious. And I think that the point is just to make those conscious decisions. You know, are you going to visit your mother? Then like really, you know, if it's better to make it a 1 hour visit instead of a 3 hour visit, and you can like be really present for that 1 hour, I think that that's an important thing to understand. Different people are different ways. Some people are morning people, some people are night people, some people are just like middle of the day people, but really understanding what your strengths are, understanding your personality. If you're into mazalas, if if you know your constitution, or if you know your colors, or anything that you know about yourself is input that can be used to help you be a stronger, more grounded person. Another thing with time management is just being realistic. When I'm looking at my schedule, I try and look at all aspects of it. I'm looking at like what Yomim Tovim are coming up. I'm looking at what my kids have going on. I'm looking at what's going on in the public secular world, if it's involving transportation. You know, my daughter was going to school one day and she didn't realize it was like some secular holiday. I can't even remember what it was. Not a major one, but like a minor one. So it was a Sunday schedule. And so she was late for school because she didn't understand like the train and whatever. It's not a big deal. But when we look at those things, when we do calendaring, which I like to do monthly, quarterly, weekly, and daily, and they look different for everything, but whatever is relevant to you can be good input to put in. You can put in your friends' birthdays. You can put in the weather. I like looking at the weather to know that I'm dressed appropriately, that, you know, I'm not, you know, pushing myself against the grain. You know, with women, particularly as cycles, I'm very into this, is that there are certain times of the month when you're going to have more energy, and certain times when you're going to have less energy, certain times when you're going to be hungrier, certain times when you're not going to be as hungry. If you're a nursing mom, if you're pregnant, these are all things to consider. Like, you know, the first trimester, you might be more tired, and the third trimester and the second trimester, you might have a burst of energy. So even for that, I'll look at the calendar and I'll say, like, you know what, first trimester and third trimester, like, not going to overload myself. Second trimester, maybe I could push out a little bit more. And then it's going to be after postpartum. And so, like, those types of things I think are important. Understanding travel times. If you're going somewhere, like, be realistic. Give yourself time to say hi to someone on the street. Give yourself time to, like, I don't know, walk nicely to the bus, and get there in time and not have to stress out about that. I don't know if people have more specific questions about time management. I know there was like a family question, I think, related to time management from the questionnaire. Let me see. Um, oh, okay. About meal planning and prioritizing time in my schedule for self-care and overall health. So um, I schedule time for myself into my schedule. I, you know, I schedule, I don't know what, like the person who wrote this, like, I don't know what type of lifestyle you have, if you have kids, if you don't, but I'll say meal planning for me usually looks like a weekly meal plan, and that goes along with grocery shopping. So my meal plan will inform the groceries that I'm buying, and I like to be efficient. So I do a lot of things with technology. Take that for what you will. You might not be a technology person. You might not have a smartphone. You might have a smartphone. I have a smartphone, so I order groceries from Whole Foods. I just think that their produce is amazing and I like the service. And then I go in person to the stores in Crown Heights. And I pretty much have like the same menu, and I have a way that I change it up. Like Thursday night is an easy dinner. Like, you know, it might be like, I don't even want to say what it is because I don't like what the easy dinners are in my house, but like something that doesn't really require very much effort. It might be something from the freezer. It might be something from takeout, but it's going to be a really low bar thing. That's another one of my things, is low bar living. So like despite the fact that sometimes it looks like I'm doing a lot externally, I don't leave my home often. I really don't set high expectations. Like my meals are very much like, it might be rice and meat and a vegetable. And maybe there's like an extra vegetable, or if somebody doesn't like something. And then I'm big into leftovers. So for the meal planning people, I plan for the week. And then if there's leftovers, sometimes I freeze them, sometimes I eat them, but I try not to waste too much. And certain things you can prep in advance, and certain things need to be more fresh. But, depending on what your diet is, I don't know, like I said, I don't know who this is, but like some things you can get away with making it batch cooking, which like I'll batch cook if it's for Shabbos, like I'll batch cook soups, I'll batch cook like even challah. I like to make dips fresh if I'm making them. I don't often do that. And then I'll also habit stack. Habit stacking is a big thing that I'm into. Really, for me, that's about attaching one thing to another thing. So Thursday nights, I like to farbang with people, and I like to learn. And I put things in the oven while that's happening. So it's making me accountable to put things into the oven for Shabbos before they come, sort of get things ready before they come. We get a little Tolamea in, we can taste things, we can enjoy. And then I'm like getting ready for Shabbos. And then I know afterwards that I have X amount of things that have been prepared for me that way. And my schedule is pretty consistent. I don't like to change up the schedule. So, if you like to have a coffee date with a friend once a week, like I would say, I would encourage you to make that coffee date on the same day every week, or the same time if you can, so that it's like, oh, Fridays at 12, I like to be social and have coffee with a friend. That's my time. So then you'll know when you're planning other things in your week and in your day and in your budget, like that's when I'm spending $5 on a coffee. That's when I'm going out. So I'm going to make sure Shabbos is made before then, or, like my plans are made before then. I like to, I think that's like scheduling. And unless anyone has specific questions. There are questions coming in. Okay. Sorry, I want to make sure I didn't miss anyone. How do you make time? Okay. People like things. How do you make time for working out if your Yetzer Hara is making you feel there is zero time? So I don't work out, so I don't know. And there's the time that there is. Hashem gives us the time that we have. And you can't do everything. Like, I think that part of having, you are spending your time. So yes, I have time, but just like I made a simcha, I also wasn't able to go to the IHL. I also wasn't able to have my lavish Melava Malcha by myself that I usually have Motzei Shabbos, and just really indulge myself when my husband has a chavrusa, my kids are sleeping, and like I get to do this very, very special thing for myself that didn't happen this week because something else was more important to that. I outsource a lot of things, if like there are many things at this point that AI can do, and there are many things that I don't do. That's the truth. Like, someone was saying, why don't you go here and there? And like, I rarely leave a 5-block radius unless it's something that's really, really urgent. I don't know if that's helpful. And then there's little things, like even though I don't work out, like I'll find times that I have one chavrusa. For example, I like to meditate, and we meditate together at the end of our chavrusa for 20 minutes. So just figuring out how that works for you personally. Like if your thing is working out, it might be about working out at home instead of going to the gym. It might be about doing a workout in your office. I've done a whole stretching routine on a bus before. I was stuck on a bus and I was like, okay, there's bars, there's this, I could sit, I can move in different ways. I think it's sometimes about being creative with your time, with your budget, with your goals, and like just making sure you're doing something. If it might be that you're working out for 10 minutes, not an hour. That's just where you might be at that time. It might be that you're working out at your desk while you're typing. Might be that, I don't know, your workout is carrying your groceries from the subway instead of taking a taxi. I don't know if that was helpful. And then someone else has a question. What if I'm not a decisive planner and I like doing different things every week? So if that works for you, do it. I mean, I was very into the minimalist movement, like very into it. And I was reading something by people who started it, and they said like it gets a bad rap. People think minimalism is like, oh, you can only have one book and one shirt and one this. And they said, no, it's about having the things that are important to you. So if 10 books or 100 books are important to you, that's fine. It's just cutting down on things that aren't important. And so I think with, some personalities are more spontaneous, and that's your magic and that's your power and that's how you connect to Hashem. For me, I know that I don't thrive that way. I need a schedule. And if Hashem throws me something spontaneous, like my kids trying to bang down my door right now, or, having to be on Zoom, then I'm going to flow with that. I can't let it ruin my day. But at the same time, having a plan, even if the plan changes, by the way, having a plan, I find grounding. Gives me somewhere to start. Okay, there's another thing in the chat box. How do you make the most important thing the most important thing? By prioritizing it. If like Hashem is the most important thing, then how do you make Hashem the most important thing? There's many ways, but like davening to Hashem, saying thank you to Hashem, doing Hashem's mitzvahs, being happy, like the same way that we think about that, lahavdil, like we could break that out to any area of our life. How do you make your spouse feel like he's important? Like you find out his love language, you spend time with him, you make things a priority that are important to him. When it's mikvah night, you make it special. You don't just like, I don't know, like run in and run out, or like say that you have other plans and forget when it is. I don't know, like something that's important to you. I think it's something that you really take the time to understand and to do actions toward. And like, it's hard to know what to say exactly without knowing, any specifics that you're talking about. Not that you have to share something specific, but hopefully that was helpful. How to be able to go with the flow if something changes when I feel grounded with plans and consistency. So that I would say is unique to you, and also unique to whatever the going with the flow is going to be. If it's a consistent thing that you're dealing with, going with the flow, one thing that I really have to go with the flow with consistently is like some of my children are more spontaneous, and so I know that I have to go with the flow with that, but I prep myself by sort of being prepared that the schedule could change, and also like knowing tactics of how I'm going to maneuver. Like you might have to go with the flow with the subway. So the subway, like I think a lot of these things are in our mind. How we act it out or how we accept it might look like different things. But for me, going with the flow, the first step is being like, okay, this is from Hashem. Like that's the first step. The first step is like, this is Hashem. Everything that I do after is like a tactic, a technique, something that's going to suit me. Obviously, the more you do this, the easier it's going to get. But like for me, it's transportation. That's sometimes where I feel the most out of control. I have no control over the bus or the subway, and that's a real like mirror to Hashem showing me like you have no control. You saw it because it said on your phone that the train comes in 2 minutes, that you can run there, and then it's going to be 2 minutes, but actually it's 12 minutes. Actually, there's a sick passenger. Actually, it's rerouted. The B is now the 2, the 3, and the F and the G, and you're in Manhattan when you thought you were going to Queens. Like everything is upside down, and that's really life. But there's a reason. I might not know that reason, but I just remind myself there's a reason. It could be that I needed to go this way. It could be there's a spark to uplift. I needed to meet someone. I didn't need to meet someone. I needed to be safe. I needed whatever it is. And I, you don't have to go crazy with that, but really just accepting that it's from Hashem. My husband is one of the masters of this that I really try and learn from, is that once I made a really big mistake, like a very, very big mistake, something that was like embarrassing. It was shameful. I was like really just, it was like an admin mistake in our household that I just couldn't even understand how it could happen. And when I told my husband, I was like afraid to even tell him, not because he's a scary person, just because I was so ashamed. And that's like also like not from Hashem. There's no, like we make mistakes, we're human. And when I told him, he said, well, that's just one less thing to think about. And he didn't even waste a second on like, oh, but it could have been like this, or it could have been like that, or why didn't you? Why didn't you? Why didn't? No. Well, one last thing to think about. That obviously it's from Hashem. And I think that that's like how we have to look at the big things and the small things. We can practice it actually with the small things so that it's a muscle. Like everything is a muscle. All of these life skills and tools are muscles. Oh my gosh, the trains and the buses are where I get the most stress and feeling out of control. Yeah, it's a perfect practice. Living in New York City is really the perfect remedy. And I think we always have to do our Hashtablis. It's not about saying like, oh, I can get somewhere that takes 30 minutes in 5 minutes. I'm just going to leave, with 5 minutes to get there. But when we really leave with 30 minutes and 45 minutes and 1 hour to get us there, Hashem is really not wanting us to be there in that moment. So we can accept it. And if we're even a step above accepting it, is really looking for the opportunity in it. So like I would say, if it's really hard still, just like accept it. And that would be your homework. And if you're getting to the point where you feel like you're great at accepting, like you really know how to accept, you really know how to say Hashem is in control, then you could even say, wow, there must be a spark here. There's got to be some spark here that I'm meant to uplift, that I ended up in the Bronx when I was supposed to be in Harlem. So what is that spark? And I think that that can be a perspective change as well. Parenting and managing a household is another thing that I think is on the lines of, and while saying motivated, of time management. So I'll just address that now as a question. So motivated, motivation, I think, comes from enthusiasm. And I look for things, first of all, that are fun for me and fun for my family. So I really try and infuse my life and my kids' life with as much fun as possible. And sometimes that means pivoting away from something. Sometimes that means abandoning the schedule. Sometimes that means, at a very, very difficult point in my Shabbos prep, when I like really just felt like Shabbos was so hard to get ready for, with like one particular child, I was really struggling. I decided, if that child can't take a shower before Shabbos, which is like a really big thing for me, then they're not taking a shower before Shabbos, because the cost was too great on our menuchas nefesh and bringing in Shabbos. And, I just felt like we live in a world where my kids, Baruch Hashem, shower very regularly. So like if that particular child it's going to like cause such disturbance in that child and then in me and everyone else, then I let go of that. And like now that child, I can't imagine them not wanting to shower before Shabbos, but it's just an example. Like in the moment, you might have to release one thing. I think, I don't know if the person who asked us has children yet or is managing a house. I mean, probably managing something if you're, like even if it's just your bedroom. But I think looking forward to things, finding things to celebrate and be happy, singing Shabbos songs at the table, or, finding little prizes, little enthusiasm. Sometimes we have dance parties. We do a lot of really fun things. And I do a lot of fun things for myself too. So like, just find the kosher fun things that you enjoy. You could go for walks, you can give out prizes, you can give yourself prizes, you can, be silly. Like a lot of being around kids and a lot of I think is like the way I relate to my kids is like that curiosity and that silliness, especially when things are like heavy and monotonous. It's just like, just have fun. And there's another question from someone. Practically, how do you plan this all out? Oh, I don't know what part you mean. And how do you keep on top of all the different details in life? I'm not on top of all the different details in life. That's true. A lot of things fall through the cracks. But I think that's with anyone. Like, I think that would be if I was doing a little or doing a lot. Like, it's impossible in the world that we live in today with 5,000 emails and 10,000 WhatsApp messages and like kids and family and everything. So for me, it's a priority scale. It's, constantly triaging what's the most important thing. And it's not always the thing that's screaming or the person that's screaming or the elephant in the room. It might be something in the corner is the most important thing, especially with paperwork and I think the planning will allow you to see what the most important thing is. Like when you take 5 minutes or 10 minutes every morning to just look, like I keep a schedule, I keep a calendar, and I try and look at it. So in the morning, I might spend 5 minutes when I wake up just looking at the day. And at the end of the night, I might spend 5 minutes looking at tomorrow so that I can look. I'm going to take my phone now so that I can just, 1 second. Okay, so tomorrow, I know that I have overlapping things already. I try and also not put things on my calendar that I'm not committed to because I feel that it trains me to not value my time or to not value what's on my calendar. So I have some things on here now that I would even just delete, like I do hold space for things in my calendar, particularly like things that aren't confirmed, and I might put a question mark or a hold. But I'm going to delete some of those things now because I know that they're actually not happening tomorrow. So I'm deleting like 4 or 5 things actually. And then I'm looking at what's really going to happen tomorrow. Okay, so those things are deleted. So now I have in the morning a few things that I'm doing with my kids. And I have a phone meeting. And then I have to take a kid to a doctor's appointment. I have to check in with a friend in the afternoon about helping her with something. And I have therapy for 2 of my kids and a meeting at the same time as that. So now if I was going through it, now is when I would see I'm double booked. So I either need an older kid to help out, a babysitter, my husband. Now is the point where I would start also reminding, if it's older kids that are doing things on their own, reminding them of what's going on. I have a chavrusa. My daughter has something. I keep almost everything on my calendar. And I have another learning that I do. Okay, so now my homework would be, okay, now that I know what I'm doing, first of all, one of the in-person appointments, it's the first time that I'm going to this office. I would want to check how I'm getting there. And then the second thing is I need to find someone to take my kids somewhere. So now I know that I need to work on those things, and I'm going to do that before I go to bed. And then in the morning, I would also take 5 minutes to go through, because maybe if I'm having a meeting, I need a laptop with me. If I'm going to an appointment with a kid, maybe I need to bring a sticker or a lollipop. Like whatever those things are, I want to make sure that I'm prepared for them, that I have enough travel time, that it snowed out, so I need boots or I need an umbrella, or like all those things I'm going to sort of work on now. And it just took a couple minutes. It doesn't take a lot of time, and you could do it while you're doing something else. It's really, and then in the morning, I'll make sure I have my meals for the day, when I'm going to eat, what I'm going to eat, my kids' food, and then I'll proceed like that. If I have something at night and I know I'm not going to be able to come home and change, I'm dressed for appropriately for whatever I have for the whole day. If I need to bring a change of clothes, that's something that I'll do. So there's questions here that I don't know. Let me see if they're going to fit in somewhere else. Sorry, I want to see my trajectory because I think that these will fit in a little bit later. Okay, so one of the big things when you have a goal or when you have a vision and a mission is that you really want to keep it strong in your mind's eye. So when you're making decisions, you'll start to see if it's going closer to that or further away from that. Maybe not in every single decision, but that's something that I would ask myself. If you're single and one of your goals is to get married, when you're looking at, is this bringing me closer or further away? Someone once told me when I was single, when are you going to have time to go on a date? Because I had a very full schedule then and I had no time to go on a date. So one of the things that I did, I don't know if I was particularly ready to date at that moment, but I cleared space in my calendar. I don't know if it was 1 day a week that I had an hour or two that I cleared or whatever it was, but I actually booked time for dates in my schedule before I was dating. And then in that time that I had, I went on a date with myself. So if I had 2 hours every Thursday evening as a date night, then that meant that like I don't like baths, but I'll use this example. I could take a bath. I could get my nails done. I could, read a book. I could do like something gratuitous for myself to fill that space with all the love and all the feelings that I would want to have for myself and for my spouse in that time. And then, you know that you have it there. It's like when you're doing something or when you want something, you have to be ready for it. So like if one of your goals is to be very, very wealthy, then I would say that all of your decisions would be around like, is this something that's going to help me to know how to manage lots of money? Or is this something that's taking me away from that? Like whatever your goal is, sort of think about it in that way. Like what are the steps that I need to be ready for Hashem to give me my spouse, to give me this money, to give me this job, to give me these children. Like I even at one point was a nanny, not necessarily because I felt like I wanted to be a nanny, but there was a part of me, I was very, very old and I had never changed a diaper. And I remember I was like, wow, I was working with this 6-month-old baby. And I really think back today, now she's much older, like that was my experience with a baby. Like otherwise, I might have just gotten to being a mother without really having practical experience holding, diapering, feeding a baby. And that would have been a different kind of experience. So I'm glad that I had that. And now I think I can go into the other question. So shidduchim is a very specific thing. I could touch on it. Someone asked, what did they say? Figuring out where your focus should be with shidduchim. So it's going to be different for every person. A lot of these things, especially anonymous questions, I can answer it as I can in a general way, but there might be specific things and some things that I'm saying, I should have said this in the beginning. There could be many things that I'm saying that are not aligned with different individuals here, with who you are. And that is fine. Like none of this is, 100%. These are just ideas that I'm throwing out that I use and you might need something different. So with shidduchim, for me, my focus first was working on myself to be ready for shidduchim. You could do that while not dating, or you could do that while dating. It depends on who you are and what you need and how much, work you're trying to do in growth. I am a linear person, so I need to take steps. I'm not a person who jumps into everything all at once. I'm like, okay, the first step is that I want to be ready to date and have the space to date. The next step is that I'm going to look for people, or he's going to look for me, or I'm going to talk to a shadchan or go online. I met my husband on JSwipe. So for people who don't know that, I met my husband on JSwipe. And so that was his Shabbos and how that came. But for people who are using shadchanim or friends, the next step could be, or it could be at the same time, working on your resume, making sure that your resume is in good standing, telling your friends. I had a friend who used to tell me all the time to keep her in mind. She would message me all the time. I don't think she could have messaged me anymore. And I know that I wasn't the only one. She would send her resume and put herself out there. For me, another thing that I did was really clearing physical space in my home for my husband. So, and the apartment that I was living in, I had a roommate, but I had my own bedroom. And so in my bedroom, I would clear, like I used half of my closet, half of my drawers, half of my things. I know some people like to buy something as a segula, something for their wedding or something that they'll have for their marriage, or try on something. It might be like a sheitel, but you might not want to buy a sheitel. You might not have the money to physically buy a sheitel, but you could go try them on. I think, with shidduchim, to figure out where your focus should be, it's a little bit more specific. So you might want to ask a mashpia. You might want to speak to someone that you care about, your parents, your friends. With shidduchim, often there's blind spots. We all have blind spots. And so I think, I want to say be realistic. And I don't mean realistic in the sense of settling or things like that. I mean realistic that, like, if you want to live in a city and or you want to live in the country, but you're only dating people who live in New York City, like maybe that's not realistic. Or, do you have misalignment in the things that you say you're looking for? Or are the things that you say you're looking for actually reflective of what you really need and want? I think that really asking yourself those questions, and just taking logical steps. They don't have to be big steps. They don't have to be leaps, but taking extra spiritual care and extra physical hishtadlus bit by bit, I think is important. So, the davening, the tehillim, all of the segulas, whatever you're doing there, and then also going to events or, working on yourself. If it's that you want to be more in shape, if it's that you want to, I don't know, be mentally more fit, work on some issue that you have from the past. Really, I think for shidduchim, we really want to come to it. We get married not as a perfect, we're not 120 when we get married. We're whatever age we are, and hopefully it's young. So sorry, I'm just plugging in my computer. So we know that we're going to continue to work on ourselves, and we know that we're going to continue to work on ourselves with a partner. But the thing is, we still want to do as much work as we can and be as ready as we can before we get there. So it's a little bit of a us and our spouse are in this, long race. We're in the marathon of marathons, but we want to make sure we're in the same direction and we want to be in the marathon together. So the more work we do, I think the better it is. Someone was on the screen. I don't know if that's because you want to ask a question, but please feel free to unmute yourself if you do want to ask a question or say something. Okay. Any questions about shidduchim? I know that's a whole thing in itself. You can ask me personal questions also. I know this is a life coaching thing, but you could ask me.
Hi, I have a question.
Sure.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hi. Okay, so as a 36-year-old lady, never married, how do you know? I've been on so many dates, and honestly, I've been really burnt out. How do you know when someone is the one?
Okay, I can't. First of all, I want to give you encouragement because I was 35 when I got married, so I know what it's like to be. I know what it's like to be in your 30s and dating. I think the thing I want to tell you, I can't tell you how to know when someone's the one. I can't. I don't know if other people have tips for that or there is some litmus test. For me, it was very part intuition and part hishtadlus. I think what I want to say to you first is just to be encouraged, to continue to encourage yourself in whatever way you need to do to stay positive and to stay inspired and to stay open and hopeful and to motivate yourself to know that you're an amazing person. I don't know who you are. I don't know if I could see it or if it's meant to be seen or not. It's not important, but I'm sure that you're an amazing person. And, it's easy to get burnt out. And so I would encourage you to do whatever you can to make sure every day that Hashem loves you and he wants to send you the best shidduch possible. And it's on the way. It's things take time and hashgacha has to be there and you're just doing your hishtadlus to really make that aligned. So whatever you have to do to keep yourself positive and motivated, I think a lot of things in life are about psyching yourself up in a positive way. I think we can spend a lot of time thinking about the what ifs, thinking about I'm 35, thinking about I'm 36, thinking about this person, that person. Focus on the stories that resonate with you in a positive way. Listen to all the stories of hope, don't listen to anyone or anything that is going to derail you from your goal, which your goal is to have a shidduch. So sometimes people might say something which doesn't land for you in a positive way, but they mean well. I don't mean that. I don't mean that you have to cut people off or get offended every time someone tries to make a suggestion, because I know there's a lot of sensitivities and it's oh, did you freeze your eggs? And oh, did you do this? And do you do that? Just if you can, just keep yourself in a positive place and take anything that anyone is giving you that's relevant and use it. All the stuff they're saying that's not relevant, that's negative, that you're feeling, just get rid of it. Don't read stories about old ladies who have cats. don't read them. Don't hang around with those people. You need to put yourself in a place of positivity, positive girls your age, positive girls who got married at your age, like quotes, music, just really psych yourself up. And I think that that's for any goal, by the way. Like, I'm not just speaking about shidduchim, but I think any goal, and do the things that make you feel like you have it and are moving towards it. So if you need to send yourself flowers once a week so you could feel like you would feel when your husband is going to bring flowers home from work, do that. Like, whatever you need to do to be positive within the realm of reason, within the realm of your financial situation. Like, I don't know any of that. Now, the hishtadlus side of knowing if you have the right spouse, I think, so for me, I was very talkless oriented in the end. Like, the last year of my dating before I got married, I was going on 1-hour dates, and I knew what was right for me, the type of person that was right for me. I was very in touch with myself. Hopefully a person, at that age is also, so because my husband was also around the same age and had been married before, he was also very in touch with himself. So, you cut through a lot of the periphery and the surface right away. When you're 21, it's very beautiful. And you might not know everything about yourself, or a lot of things about yourself, or how to go on a date, or what you should be looking for on a date. The more dates you go on, the more professional you get at dating. Now you know personality types. Now you can spot like, oh, this might mean this, or that might be a sign of that, or, this is something that I like and this is something that I don't like. I wouldn't spend too much time. I was giving everyone 3 dates unless there were huge red flags. So I was open. Like, I would go on dates with all kinds of people, but after 3 dates, then I would have to really say no, unless if there were red flags, I might say no before, obviously, or even after a first date. And because I was going on dates in the middle of the day for 1 hour, I wasn't invested in like a lot of outfits and makeup and traveling. And, it was like coffee dates, very, very fast to get to know a person. And then the second date could be like a real date per se. And the third date also like a real date. And then after that, like, you sort of just move on. I think a lot of times people get drained by dating the wrong people, dating them for too long, getting too invested right away, telling too much information. Like, you don't need to be vulnerable on the first, second, and third date. Like, I'm sorry, that's just my opinion. I think you need to know if this is a person that's worth being vulnerable to. So that's, after the third date, yes, you need to start disclosing things that you would, want someone to know if you would want to marry them, and they should be doing the same thing. You could start asking the really, really difficult questions, but you could also ask them in the beginning. My husband just like asked them full out before we went out. And so we really knew that we were aligned, and think out of the box, at 36, think outside of the box, use kosher out of the box techniques to figure out how to get closer to your soulmate.
Right. Thank you so much for your feedback. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Okay. Another question about dating. Hi, being single and having to fend for myself, I have a hard time finding ways to be a receiver. What are ways to do that, to practice and get in tune with my more feminine side? This is not something that I'm very good at. Okay. I think that start small. I don't know who you are or what your life is or anything like that. Oh no, I don't know if this person is still here, but I'll say it. But I would say, maybe they'll hear it on the recording if they are not here anymore. I would say to get in touch with the feminine side is to really like not be so much in the driver's seat, to really allow things to come to you, to be grounded in yourself, to be connected to all things beautiful and feminine. And, we're not like a cartoon character. It's not that you have to enjoy receiving flowers on Shabbos or Erev Shabbos to be a feminine person, or that you have to have a certain hairstyle or makeup. But I think everyone's going to have it for themselves of like what it means. And to receive could just mean that like when someone offers you something, you don't instinctively say no or I'm okay. Like maybe allow for that, allow for people, or even tell people. I know one of the things I really like when I'm postpartum is that I like to have guests. I don't like a lot of guests, but I don't leave my home usually for 6 weeks. And I like to have like maybe one friend a day, or like, you know, for like an hour or two, someone to just like come socially stimulate me, not overwhelm me. And like, whatever, the food that I'm getting meals in anyway, like I have someone to share it with. I have some time. And I realized I had to tell people that, because for some people, they feel it's like, okay, don't bother the new mother. You know, you just drop the food at the door and run, or you just like ignore them because they're stressed out. You don't call them anymore. Like, and like in some ways, postpartum, I have more time than I ever had in my life, and I'm not leaving my house. So people are doing everything for me, and I'm just at home with a baby who's mostly sleeping at that point. My babies don't start waking up until like 3 months old. So I think that really just saying what you need or want, it might be like calling your parents and letting them give you advice, like saying, can you give me some advice on this, that, and the other, and receiving that advice. It could be davening to Hashem and asking him for something and not thinking about how, what, who. Just say, Hashem, I want this, and I'm going to allow you to give it to me. It could be that when someone holds the door for you, you don't say, oh, no, that's okay. You actually take the door or walk through it and say, thank you. Like, allow people to give. The fact that this person, whoever you are, asked this question means that you will get opportunities to do it. I really feel like that's how it works. Oh, still here. Okay, thank God they were able to hear that. Somebody has their hand up and there are questions in the box. Okay, Dina, I'll go to you since you have your hand up, and then I'll answer the questions in the box.
Okay, hi. So I feel like, I don't know if this is something realistic or something in my head, but kind of like you said, certain practices that you need for marriage. I am not ready to be a mom, and I know for a fact, like it could be like at least a year or 2 or 3 till I'm ready to be a mom, like way after then I'm ready to be a wife. And I feel no need to, kind of run a play group or babysit. I don't know if that's like necessary practice to be a mom. I don't feel any connection to babies. I personally don't want to be around them. If I have friends with cute babies, I'd be happy to play with them. But I feel like, I don't know, that's like the majority of jobs that people have, like, in the frum community for like younger women. I'm in my mid-20s, and I don't know. I feel like, do I need to get that experience where I'm like a live-in nanny for a day because it's good money, and there's like a 5-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 1-year-old, or babysit like 2, 3 toddlers at a time? And like the idea of like changing so many diapers and, not knowing like who needs what, this toddler's running, this newborn sleeping, this child needs to go to school. And I know it's like different. It's like the parents have their own rules. I'm just following, but I feel like no natural need to be a part of that. To me, that just sounds like pure stress and chaos. And I know it's like when I have my own kids, I'll feel that connection. But the idea of just having so many kids in such close ages back to back at the same time, that just feels like the most unnatural thing for me. So I feel like, should I wait to date until I feel that need? Because like as a frum woman, I feel this pressure, like I have to feel this, but I really don't. Maybe I'll get there. Like till this year, I thought I would have 3 kids max. I feel like it could be now like 6 or 7, who knows? But I don't know if I need that like practice of taking care of kids before I get married.
You absolutely don't need it, and it sounds like you don't want it. So I wouldn't encourage someone to do something that would make them uncomfortable, or that, discomforting in that way. I would say if you have a mashpia, it's a good thing to speak to your mashpia about. It's great that you know this about yourself. And I think it's something that could be explored further. I don't think it's something that, can be answered in 5 minutes. But what I would encourage you to do is sort of explore where that's coming from, like where those feelings are coming from. Like if it's really the surface, like if it's really like, I just don't want to be around kids, or I just don't like kids, or if there's something specific that like maybe you had an experience with specific kids that brought up a certain thing, or your childhood brought up a certain thing. I'm not saying you have to go deep, dark, and like, really spend a lot of time on it, but I think it would be beneficial maybe to spend a little bit of time on it. And then I think it's also important to know, well, first of all, you have a year usually from, like if you're going on dates now, you're not going to have a baby next month. And so it's good to know that. You also don't have usually 3 babies at once, but some people do. And so I think that there's a learning curve, for everyone, from people who had were in big families and were nannies and, have been around 20 kids at once, to people like me who really didn't have a lot of hands-on baby experience and got a little bit of it. You'll figure it out. It's not, there's part intuition. One thing that I will say is it's not inherently easy. And, I wouldn't encourage someone to just keep having kids because it's just going to be so easy, back to back. That's not for every person. That's for you to speak to your mashpia and your rabbi and your husband and really figure out for yourself, what your family will look like. Also, not everyone is, going to have the same fertility. That's just a reality. Mm-hmm. So I would say those are things to consider, but also that it's not just going to be easy because they're your kids. I love my kids and they are not easy. And, God willing, I would have more kids and, I'm probably going to keep these kids also, but they're not easy. They're not easy. And they make me grow every single day. And I've had challenges that I never thought I would have. And I'm constantly having to be the CEO and step up to the plate and know when to get closer to my kids, when to step away and let them be independent, when it's about me and when it's about them. There's a time to discipline and there's a time to be joyful. And there's a time when maybe my kid does something wrong, but they need a hug. There's a time when I need a hug. There's a time when I need to call and ask for parenting advice. There's a time when maybe my kid needs an outside intervention. There's a time when maybe I need to call a Rav and talk about I'm not ready for another child. My mental health can't handle it. My whatever, people have all sorts of challenges that come up. We're not a monolith. Baruch Hashem, Judaism has laws and it has rabbis to interpret those laws for us. And we have mentors to, give us the feeling behind everything and sort of understand who we are and the direction that we need to go in as individuals. So those are all tools. I think the biggest thing about being a life coach and using coaching, which we can all coach ourselves, is that we're trying to move towards a vision and a mission and goals, and we're using tools to get us there. So, I think most of you seem to understand what coaching is, or at least the people who filled out the questionnaire. There wasn't everyone that's here, I'm sure. And the biggest thing I think between therapy and coaching is that coaching is really action oriented. So you should be doing things as a result of coaching. You should be growing towards something. And it's not something that you need to do for your whole life. It's not something that everybody needs to pay for. It's not something, it could be something that you use for a few months or for a year or not at all. It could be something that you do in tandem with therapy. Sometimes things come up in therapy and then people use a life coach to then get more tools to work through in a different kind of way. It's not all or nothing. Sorry, I think there were, the question in the box. Okay.
Can I share something actually?
Sure.
Hi. Okay. So just in response to the person whom you were just talking to, who said her concern about, getting married and then having children. So I wanted to share 2 important things. One is Sarah Moroza actually shared on a mikvah.org podcast. I don't remember which one it is, but I'm sure that if you message her privately, she'll be happy to speak about it. I don't want to take what she said out of context, but she said something along the lines that for those who are nervous to, go straight from being single to married to motherhood, she said, first you get married and then you deal with the next part. So I feel like reaching out to her about, the best way to handle those things. I think that she'll be amazing. I happen to know her personally. The second thing I actually wanted to share was a Rebbe story that there was a woman, Mrs. Weiss. I tried looking up which Mrs. Weiss, because saying Mrs. Weiss is like saying Mrs. Cohen. But there was a woman who, she went into the Yechidus right before her wedding with her chassan, and it was in the middle of the week right before the wedding, so they didn't really see each other before or after the Yechidus. They went in and they went out. But they went in, the chassan went out, and she stayed in Yechidus with the Rebbe. And she was talking to him for 20 minutes. And of course, he couldn't speak to her afterwards. So the minute the Yichud room closed, he said to her, he's like, what did you say to the Rebbe for 20 minutes? And she said, I wanted to call off the wedding because I don't have experience with children and I was nervous to become a mother. And the Rebbe said that that she should either, I don't recall if it was like volunteer with children or go work with children in a school or something like that. So I don't think you have to become a nanny. I think, volunteering once a week or, hanging out at someone's Shabbos meal a little bit early while they get the table ready, helping with the kids, is a great way to start. And just FYI, this woman went on to have 9 children, to the point that she went to the doctor and the doctor said, "Oh, I'm so sorry." She goes, "For what?" She goes, "I see you're an Orthodox woman and I see that you have a closed womb and you never had children." She's like, "That's funny because I had 9 of them." So I just wanted to share those 2 points.
Thank you for sharing. I heard the end of that story, but I never heard the beginning of it. So thank you.
Sorry, could I just add, like, for 30 seconds, just follow up?
Sure.
The thing is, I really have this gift, Baruch Hashem. Like, children really do love and respect me whenever I do work with them or like volunteer, babysit, things like that. The thing is, it's just being with so many at once or like ages below 3. That just sounds like the most stressful thing. And it's like unnatural. So I know there's like the little preparation things and, I know I'm very great with kids, like Chassidus Hashem. And like when I do feel connected, I am connected, but like, you can't force it. Is this a maternal instinct thing? Or is this just like some people don't feel that unless it's like with their own kids? Like they just don't want to be around babies, like period. And is that a turnoff in shidduchim if you tell a guy, like, I'm not ready to think about that, I don't want to be around babies right now? Is he told, like, run away when you hear that?
There was a woman, I think her name is Ariella Clayman. She spoke to the women's circle for Malava Malka. She was born without a womb. And Baruch Hashem, I'll give you a spoiler, she has a baby now. She had a uterine transplant. But when she married her husband, she did not know, like they didn't know about uterine transplants, and she didn't know if she would be able to have children. I mean, I don't think they thought it was possible. Like they went into it like maybe an IVF and like we'll try and we'll daven, but like really he said yes to marrying her, probably assuming that they weren't going to have natural biological children. I say this to say that like for every person and every phobia and every whatever, there's a person who will be okay with that. I wouldn't say for you to like leave yourself as you are now and like don't think about this or don't work on it for yourself. But whatever you have, there is a person. There is a person. There might be a guy who also feels the same way, who's like, I also am not in a place right now where I'm ready to have a lot of babies running around. And not everyone has that maternal thing. I don't really feel like I have that maternal thing. For me, it was a choice and a decision. And a lot of things in my life are choices and decisions based on my values, there were just certain things that went into play for me to decide that I was going to have children and that I was really going to embrace it. But I am not naturally nurturing maternal like babies. I'm not a person who goes up to babies and is like, let me hold your baby. Or like, at least I didn't do it before. I think now I've like grown into a certain thing and I'm in a certain role as a mother, but it was not natural or inherent for me.
Can I add something?
Sure.
I would love to just add for a second where I just came on, but thank you so much for this.
It's beautiful. I can't see anyone, so it's very weird, but welcome.
Yeah, you're doing amazing. Taka, I don't know exactly the full thing of what she was saying, this person. But one thing that did stand out for me is this idea of like so many under, let's say, a certain age or just a lot going on. And I'm a preschool teacher and I have a lot of students in the classroom as well every day for 6 hours straight. We hang out with each other back to back. And they're all the same young little age. One thing that I find that is very interesting is the concept. Take away the objects of the children in this scenario, but the concept of having a lot going on at once. I think that this could play out in everything in life, meaning this scenario is children, the concept of having so many of having just overstimulating, trying to like figure out everyone's love languages, needs, and try to cater everyone at once. And then that can create an internal chaos inside of us. It could be so overstimulating, so loud. And when it becomes like that, that's when this overwhelmingness gets associated with a certain type of like object. Let's say with children, it's like when you can think about children, you associate it with stress and overwhelmingness simply because it could be that inside of us. And I think that the key here, I'm saying I could totally get this off, but I guess I'll share it anyway, where the what helps me as a preschool teacher is when there is so much going on, it's the idea of like, okay, that's what's overwhelming me. The concepts of a lot of voices, a lot of needs, me having to be so many things at one time, at one moment, being present when I have my challenges, I have my struggles, I have my needs, and yet there's so many, everyone, they say every single child is their own world. So imagine a bunch of them, it could be overwhelming. And I think that, okay, this, like I said before, this scenario is children, but we can do the same thing with a job. And in a job, a person can have a to-do list of, let's say, a bunch of things also that have the same extent of importantness and overwhelmingness. And I think that this person should take a step back and realize, wait a second, maybe this is something to do with the fact that imagine it's so loud around me and then that doubles over inside of me, that noise. How can I create this sense of serenity when there is so much noise around me? Like I do conscious practices of like, everybody could be like whining, crying, this, that. Everyone could be running around. Transition didn't work out that moment. And I would stand there and take a deep breath and realize I will be okay. We are not perfect, but we are here together. And like I lower my voice and like, hey, everybody, let's try this again. There's so many tools and topics like to go into. But I believe also with the maternal love and nurturing, I feel like that's something that like when someone is in a very safe, happy place, naturally there's a sense of love and a sense of giving over as a woman, especially as a woman, that I feel like it's this idea of like stress and nerves and tension that would be combined with just a lot going on that maybe perhaps prevents someone from feeling that internal love and stress and alignedness with ourselves. So Sam, some thoughts for that person.
Thank you for sharing that. I think a lot of what you said was super helpful. One thing that came up for me that is like just an overall thing that I'll give as a gift is basically throughout all the stages of my life, I think Rebbitzin from the White Shul gave me this advice, and I'm really having a baby moment with her name, but okay, I'm not going to think of her name, and that's okay. No, from the White Shul. Oh, sorry, not. I think maybe there's a different White Shul, but this is in Far Rockaway, the one I'm talking about.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the one on Surfside.
No, Far Rockaway. She's not.
Oh,
they're not Lubavitch. So she spoke to a group of girls that I was a part of a Shabbaton and her shul. And for those who don't know, she has one child and he's special needs, and like, he can't speak. He I think he can smile. He can't walk. He doesn't do much independently. They bring him to the shul after davening, and he just smiles at everyone, and she shows him off, and he does good Shabbos to everyone, and everyone comes over to greet him. And there's such a joy that people have. So you can imagine she's a person who has experienced a lot. She has no other children, just this one child who is, probably a teenager by now. So what she shared, one of the things that she does is Rebbitzin Feiner. Thank you for sharing that. So she shared that she keeps 3 things in her back pocket at all times. I don't remember the exact wording, but they're basically like 3 things that, they're kosher, they're not expensive, they're easily accessible. So I have those 3 things ever since she gave this advice to us. This was before I got married. And they're pretty consistent. Sometimes I'll add like a 4th thing in. For me, my 3 things right now are having a cup of coffee, having a shower, and spending time with a friend. Now that could be on the phone. At postpartum, it's usually I prefer it in person. At different points, the time with a friend was switching off with like a long walk. I really like to go on walks alone. Long walks like really help me to ground myself and like get my thoughts out and connect with nature, and like kind of dispel any emotion that I'm sort of holding on to. So I would encourage all of you, for all the different aspects of your life, to really come up with that list, especially like as people talk about being a mother. Like those are my 3 things now. And those are my 3 things that postpartum I knew that I wanted to have. I know that I want to have a shower every day. Like that's something that I need for myself. I love having hot showers. I do not like baths. I love having my coffee, and I like having, time with a friend. So those are things that, like, the time with a friend doesn't necessarily happen every day, but those are things that if I feel dysregulated, if I feel not up and positive and motivated, those are 3 things I can go to. I can phone a friend. I could go, go for a walk or phone a friend. I can have a coffee, and I can have a shower. Like, and I could, I do it with the lights down, and it's the whole experience. Sometimes I put different sound vibrations on. That's something that doesn't cost me a lot of money. It doesn't need a lot of time. Like I can wait until my husband gets home if my kids are here or awake or whatever. Like it's something that it's manageable, that I could think I could do that. It's not like some crazy goal. I encourage you to take those for yourself. You have like 8 minutes, so I'm going to try and get through some of these really quickly. Okay. What made you, there was something before that. Sorry. Before the what made you. Is it true that our Hishtadlus to meet the one doesn't make a difference at the end of the day, and it's all from Hashem? Yes, that's true. But we still have to do Hishtadlus. It's in Shara B'tachon. I actually read it today. Sorry. I'm not going to be able to find it. I didn't prepare that. But if someone wants, I can try and find that and send that to you. What made you open to be divorced? Okay. What made you open to be divorced? What made you decide to be open to someone, I'm assuming, to dating someone who is divorced? Okay, basically, my Hishtadlus was to think, what is a person the person that I'm meant to be with, what does his life look like? I was 35. A person who was the type of person that I would want to be with by 35 or around that age, or someone that was appropriate to date a 35-year-old, most likely would have been married before. Doesn't guarantee. There could be somebody who was 35 and right for me that wasn't married before, but like the type of people that would, knowing myself, the type of values they would have, the type of person they would be, there's a high chance they've been married before. So if they've been married before there's also a high chance that they have children. So for me, it was just about being realistic about where this person would be in their life. And if you have other values, that are important to you, whatever you are, you're going to say like, well, I want to live in the country. Where would a person who values the country be? Maybe he's, I don't know, a shaykhid, or maybe he's like, you'll start to like refine, like, and if you value being in the country in the middle of nowhere, you're probably not going after somebody who works on the stock market or somebody who, you'll start to refine, like, what does this person look like? What kind of job are they going to be doing? Like, what kind of family might they have come from? What kind of place might they have come from? It's not to say that I wasn't only dating people who were divorced, but I wasn't closing myself off to that. And I think that it's the greatest thing, because it also showed me how my husband and also other people that I dated, how they parent, because they have kids. So you're going to be open to like seeing how they parent. Because they're divorced, you're going to be seeing how they deal with conflict, and like, what does that bring up in them when they're dealing with someone that they've chosen to not be married to. So it's probably not their favorite person in the world. Like, how do they interact with that person? I think it shows a lot. And there was something else. Oh, there's something else in the chat. And then there's one other thing. Okay, someone asked me something that I don't think is for now. And then the other thing is, okay, so someone asked about finances. Wait, hold on, let me open it. Okay. Oops. Okay. No, that's not it. Sorry, bear with me one second. I just want to finance, business, and health. It's a general thing that I don't know if that was a question or that was just I think what they. Sorry, I'm just making sure that I have. Oh, that's wrong thing. My thing to work on would be tech, clearly. Oh. Okay, so here's a few more. I'm going to speed through these. Wow. Are women required to get married, and what are the ramifications if they don't? Also, why do we look down on single girls more than single guys? I hope no one's looking down on anyone. That's all I would say. And I would ask a Rav about the ramifications. I don't know of any, but men need to get married, so there need to be women for them to marry. I don't know. What do you specialize in, and who is your ideal client? What brought you to life coaching? I really think I don't have a particular specialty. Maybe regulating and executive function are like two things that I'm very big on. I'm very detail oriented, so I really love helping someone with something like that. And with regulating, I really am a person who is obsessed with regulating, and I come from a very dysregulated background. So I've spent my life's work to work on this, and I'm still working on it, and I will continue working on it until I'm all the way there. I don't think there is an ideal client. I came to life coaching because I was the person who was always helping people with things, and I wanted to work on myself. I went to Rivka Malka's redemption school, so I knew her. I wanted to work on myself, and it was like the perfect opportunity. Whatever, it just like Hashgacha Pratis brought me to it. The relationship between a coach and a client is an uneven one. How do you approach coaching in a way that doesn't take advantage of the client's vulnerability? And another question: are you working with a client with an end date or just letting them keep coming? So a lot of relationships are uneven, and I think that you have to just recognize that. Like I think that when you go to the doctor, it's an uneven relationship. When you speak to a Rav or a Mashpia, it's an uneven relationship. Like many relationships that we have are uneven. I think it's a responsibility of the coach to have boundaries and to be professional and to not take advantage of people. I don't know if there's a specific way that I do that. I don't think there is. And it's also a responsibility of the client to understand themselves and to understand what a coach is, and not to give over their power to someone else. We're not meant to give our power over to someone else. We're not meant to, the coach is not, this is not a Avodah Zarah. This is not some other thing. This is like tools to make you better in certain areas. And I have worked with clients open-endedly, meaning like we were working on a particular thing and there was no specific date. Actually, most of my clients I've worked with open-endedly, but there's always an end. So, I've only been a life coach for a few years, and I don't have any clients that have never ended, if that makes sense. And my unpaid clients that are in the other room are calling me. I think if anyone has there's 2 minutes left. I don't know if anyone has anything else that they want to ask or say, or we'll finish on time.
I'll give one more second just in case.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, while somebody if they're going to share something, they can. I want to thank you so much. This has been so incredible. You touched on goal setting and time management and how to organize your schedule and how to make time for what's important, and just so many parts of this talk, from shidduchim to parenting to it has been amazing. Ilana, it was really, really incredible, and I sure hope that many of our Living Chassidus members reach out and continue to join you for Shabbos meals. And
yes, please. Please come to me for Shabbos.
Yes, everyone loves coming to your house, so we're so grateful. And we're so grateful for your time, for your wisdom. And Mitzvah Hashem, we will have you again soon. Thank you so much, Ilana.
Thanks so much. Please feel free to email me. I put my email in the chat. And
do you want to say it out loud for anyone who's not?
Sure. It's my name, IlanaYbgi@gmail.com. You can email me with further questions if you weren't able to ask, or if you were, didn't want to ask it in public. Feel free to send me the question. Okay. Or if you think of it later, all those things.
Yay. Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Have a good night.
Good night.